Today we are going to tell you a story, the story of the ugly duckling. But this is not your typical tale. Today we are going to use this story to teach you a bit more about ducks and swans. So thank you for tuning in. We look forward to learning with you today. It was a beautiful day in the country. The sun was shining and the birds were singing. Close by the canal, a duck sat on her eggs. She had been sitting on them a long time. One by one, the eggs cracked open. Crack, crack, crack! How big the world is, said the ducklings as they waddled around. But one egg remained in the nest. It was very large. Why is it taking so long? Said the mother duck. Just a little while longer, and she continued to sit on her egg. At last, the egg broke, and out tumbled a very odd-looking creature. It was big and gray and ugly. What a funny-looking duckling, said the mother duck. But in reality, the animal in the larger egg wasn't ugly. They were just different. They were a swan. Swan eggs are much larger than duck eggs. Duck eggs usually weigh about 2.5 ounces, which is a little lighter than a deck of cards. However, swan eggs weigh almost 12 ounces, which is about 4 decks of cards. Swans also take longer to grow in their eggs, so that's why their egg hatched later than the others. Whereas duck eggs take about 28 days to hatch after they are laid, swan eggs can take up to 41 days. The next day, the mother duck took her children to the canal. To her surprise, the ugly duckling jumped in with the others and swam around happily. But back in the fowl yard, the ducks were not pleased. "What is that?" they asked. "It's the newest duckling. He is very good. He swims as well as the others, maybe better," said the mother duck. "But my dear, he is so ugly." And they all laughed. The mother duck was probably right about the baby swan swimming so well. Baby swans can swim within 24 hours of hatching. But for baby ducks, it takes about a week. But the other ducks didn't just think the ugly duckling was ugly. Worse than that, some of them pecked at him and called him names. "Go away," they hissed. So the little duckling ran away. He found himself at a lake. On it were a number of wild ducks. "Oh gosh," they said, "you are ugly, but you can stay with us if you wish." Although the baby swan wasn't really ugly, swans do look a lot different than ducks. Baby swans are usually fluffy, with grayish feathers and a grayish-black nose, which is called a bill. However, baby mallard ducks have yellow bellies and necks, with darker patches here and there. Swan babies are also much bigger than baby ducks. Baby ducks are typically about 10 centimeters tall. But baby swans are about 20 centimeters tall. So they're about twice as big. In fact, baby swans are the biggest babies of all the birds that spend time on the water, which are called waterfowl. All was well for a few days. Then one day, bang, bang, bang! Hunters have arrived. They were shooting at the ducks. The little duckling ran away as fast as he could. At last he found a lake. All on his own, he swam around. Although swans and ducks can both fly, it takes a swan about 3 to 4 months to be able to fly after it has hatched. Luckily, this swan was able to run away and find a lake. Bodies of water can help certain birds stay away from predators that live on the land. Time went by. It grew colder. One evening, as the sun was setting, a flock of white birds flew overhead. They were very beautiful, with long, slender necks. "Oh, how I wish I was one of them," said the ugly duckling. Winter came. It was bitterly cold. The duckling was starving. He was so cold he could not feel his flippers. Ice covered the pond. The duckling hid under a bush, trying to keep warm. Winter can be a bad time for baby swans. Most swan species move to warmer areas with more food during the winter months. They also often eat aquatic plants. So if the pond is covered in ice, it can be difficult for swans to get food, which is why this baby swan was so hungry. Next, the snows came. But the duckling was stronger now, and somehow he kept on. As time went on, he grew stronger and bigger. The sun started shining again. The leaves came out on the trees. Spring had come at last. Birds came back after the winter, and one day 3 beautiful white birds landed on the lake where he lived. "They are beautiful," he said. "I will go to them." But then he remembered that he was ugly. "They will probably hurt me," he said. "After all, the ducks picked on me." He swam towards the white birds. They turned and came towards him. "Please do not hurt me," he said. "I know I am ugly, but please be kind." But as he stopped, he looked down. He saw his reflection in the water. He couldn't believe his eyes. He was like them. He was a swan. "You are one of us," they said. "Welcome." They swam around him and stroked him with their bills. On the shore, the children cried out, "Look, there is a young swan, and he is the most beautiful of all." He hid his head under his wing with pleasure. Then he raised his head up and said, "Never have I been so happy." The baby swan looked different now, because as swans grow, they lose their gray feathers and dark nose. They become larger, their feathers turn white, and their bills turn orange. But this swan wasn't just happy because he finally felt pretty. He was also happy because swans are the kinds of birds that like to have close bonds. Swans are known to mate for life, and in most cases, they can bond as early as 20 months old. They also travel in flocks together looking for their mates, so it is good that this swan finally found his friends. To the story of the ugly duckling. We hope you enjoyed the video and learned a little bit more about these beautiful birds.